That fires me up. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't grow up here, and so I used to do what is known as bass fishing, and I used to do real bass fishing. And I'm not saying your little creeks and stuff aren't good, but boy, I'm just saying, where I come from, down there in Oklahoma, they had them big old watershed lakes, and you could take one of these big old willow leaf spinner baits, and you could throw it right up against the grass and just pull it right through there, and them old fish would come out of there and hit that and tear it up, okay? Remember one time I was on Oologah Lake, and I was fishing with an old boy by the name of Alan Parker, and we were fishing, and it's like this creek. It's so long ago, I don't remember like where it was on that lake, but it's like a creek that went into that. It's like a tributary or something to that lake, and it had these big old trees, and they were laying all down over the water. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Have y'all seen that? Who likes to fish in here? I mean, like fish. Don't be acting like you're just one of those people that, I mean fish, catch stuff, So when you drive by one of those good fishing holes, it doesn't take long that you can see, a big old, like you can see a place, and it just, like I can drive by a good place and I can see it. And I can think like what I would do with that. Would I Texas rig a worm and throw it up there on them stumps? Would I take a rattle trap and bang it off the rocks coming out of there? Would I take some sort of a top water plug of some sort that agitates the top water and it possesses them big old bass to come up and strike? Or would I throw a willow leaf spinner bait like old Jimmy Houston was throwing? And I was on that Oologah Lake, and me and old Alan Parker, I never was rich enough to have my own boat, so I learned how to cast from the back of the boat all the time. I used to fish with this big fat boy named Russell Payne. He's a Free Will Baptist preacher. He said he was going to get a boat and call it visitation and get a dog and call him deacon, and people would go, where's the pastor at? And I'd say, he's out on visitation with the deacon. That's the guy I love to fish. But we'd fish in a little two-man bass boat, and he's way bigger than me. So you think about me and him in a little water scamp. So this is the way I would fish. Now, most of the time I'd be doing that right there. So you get pretty good, like throwing a bait right up against, right in there, right where you need to throw it, just casting it in there like it's nobody's business. Anyways, I was on the lake with old Alan Parker, Oologah Lake, and we were on that tributary, and them old trees were hanging down way over that water. And I had a big old chartreuse spinner bait. The only thing different, it had two willow leaves, I think, and both of them were those chartreuse green, the whole thing was. And I started throwing that bait up under them big old trees. When you're in there and you got to get that bait just right, and you throw it right up in there, and then you reel it back, and you could just feel that vibration on that bait, and you bring it back in there. And man, I got to getting after those big old fish. Those fish started coming out of those trees, and man, they started pounding it. I don't think old Alan, who was operating the boat, I don't even know if he caught a fish. I was sitting back here. I caught 3 real nice bass out of them trees like that. Now, that's something I remember. Now, here's the thing. When I come to Missouri, my tactics had to change. My wife and I, we started doing some stuff, and we started going down into a little place called Roaring River, and I had never caught a trout. That's just something you would see in a Field and Stream magazine. Oklahoma is not known for their trout fisheries, okay? They can catch a lot of big bass down there, big old bass. But when you go down to Roaring River and you go walk into Roaring River and you start, casting a half-ounce spinnerbait over there and ripping it through the water, you're going to be looked at like you're a moron. So my tactics had to change a little bit. And I started going with this little stuff like this here. And as a matter of fact, I just went to Lake Taneycomo last weekend, and they were generating some water. So now then, you can't even hardly see that. I mean, you can't even hardly do anything. That's like nothing. You can't even hardly see the hook. And the baits, I mean, we have this kind of little stinky bait here. It's called power bait, and this, I don't even think there's anything like this in nature. It's just it's a little egg that's got a tail on the end of it, and you have to put this on there, and you have to cover up that whole hook. You have to take it and just you have to put it all in there. And I have to wear those little spectacle glasses now, where it's like that. It helps increase my vision and stuff because I can't see it. So so I went from what I was using over here. Let's see if I can keep this from being tangled up. So I went from that to that. And I want to tell you something, the size of fish actually changed quite drastically. Now then, if you catch a pound or a pound and a half or 2 pound trout, boy, you caught a pretty decent trout. Man, I used to catch them 4 and 5 pound bass, and they had them big old bucket mouths, and they come up out of the water, and they're tearing at stuff and ripping, it's just awesome. But now then, I'm sitting here, and I've got 2 pound test line, and I'm sitting there playing with these little old 12-inch fish, and then when you get them up on the bank, you got to baby them and take good care of them because their trout are real sensitive. And so my tactics had to change quite a bit. And it's a little bit like religion. It's a little bit like how we serve God. Here's the thing. Everything is acceptable, but not everything is beneficial. I can throw whatever bait I want to. I can go to Roaring River and I can take that bass rod down there with that big willow leaf bladed spinner bait, and they will not throw me in trout jail if I go down to Roaring River and I start. The people on the banks, when I'm tearing their lines out of the water and stuff, they might beat me to death. But there's no law that says, hey, you can't fish that way. There's nothing. There's nothing that says that that's illegal. But just because it's permissible, does that mean that it's beneficial? We can throw whatever bait we want. We can do whatever we want. But the results, now I want you to get this, the results will be poor. Now, I could take this little trout rig and I could go down to one of them big Oklahoma watershed lakes down there, and I could get out there in my little bass buddy, and I could throw that dude up there and whip it up in there and put it up by some logs with that little 2 pound test, and you know what? I might catch a fish up there. But what's the chances that I'd land it? I mean, we'd fish around old junk and the nastiest stuff. You take a Texas-style worm. Anybody know what a Texas-style worm is? Oh boy, we're going to have to go fishing more. You got to take a Texas-style worm, and what you do, you run that worm through the head of that hook, or you run the hook through the head of that worm, and you hook it back into the body so it makes it weedless. It has a little slip sinker up here for weight, and you whoosh, and so it's basically you can throw it anywhere you want to. And you can just feel it through there. You just pop it through, just ding, 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 and pretty soon you'll feel kunk, and then you go zzz. And if I did that with that little 2 pound test, I'd go ding. I use that big old line, and I could go whap like that and just jerk the snot out of that fish. I got to get his head up, and I got to get him out of that timber, and he comes up to me. I could go fishing with that little trout rig down there in Oklahoma, but all my friends down there, they would think I was an idiot. What are you fishing for, crawdads, Kevin? What are you doing? So there's nothing wrong with fishing with that stuff. There's no law that says I can't take that little rod and reel to Oklahoma and go fishing for 8 pound bass. There's nothing that says I can't do it. But what would my results be? Poor. See, saying we're a fisherman and actually being a fisherman is 2 different things. Saying you're a fisherman and being a fisherman is 2 different things. I can go to Academy, I can get outfitted with all the latest and greatest gear, but you know what? If I don't fish with the right stuff in the right places, my results are never, ever going to show that I really know what I'm doing. I feel like religion is much the same way. But the consequences are much, much more significant. Religion, let's talk about it for a second. People ask, they go, what religion are you? What do you believe? What do you believe? What's your religion? And we have all these different things. We have people that worship everything from, rocks and sticks to, God Almighty. We have all these different sets of rules. Religion is this thing that a group or an individual has decided that this is the thing, these are the lines that we're going to draw, and this way you can step up and you can toe this line and you can be a part of this religion. And there is as numerous as, shirts in your closet. So just because you're religious doesn't make you godly. Just because we toe the line to what we say we need to do and be, but that doesn't make us godly. Let me go on. We have a lot of people, and it's starting. Kyle was just talking to me, literally. He didn't even know what I was preaching on. Well, he did know, I think, but it wasn't. He was just talking about it to some other guy, and he's talking to this kid. It's a nephew or a cousin of his that he's sending him verses, and he's talking to him, and this kid's like going, man, this is exactly what I needed to hear. But Kyle says his own ideas, his own philosophies are so screwed up that it's almost like you have to untrain this person to let them know what the real truth is about God. See, we have all these people running around and saying, this is what I believe. This is what I think. I told Kyle, I said, it's almost like you get some kid that's this real good athlete, but they've had a really bad coach for a long time, and so they've told them all the wrong ways to do things. And so when they finally get a good coach that knows what they're doing, it's like that coach has double trouble now because he's got to unlearn all their bad habits, and then he's got to reinstill into them a good habits. And see, our eyes and our mind and everything that we see, we sit here and we focus on the things that we see most ordinary and most common around us. We have this worldly view of what religion should look like. And we have this televised view of what God is. And we hear these people say, well, you know what, I don't have to do this. And God still loves me. And I don't have to be here. And they want to put all these things. And everybody toes the line. And they go, and if you hit this line right here for me, then everything's okay. Well, I think that I can do this, and I think that I can do that. And just like me taking my bass rod to Roaring River, man, I may look like an outstanding bass fisherman. But my results are not going to show that I know what I'm doing. This is all about results. I remember one time, me and a kid by the name of Greg Geyer, we went and entered a bass fishing tournament, okay? And I want you to wrap your head around this, okay? We were on Stroud Lake in Oklahoma, and he and I entered a Cushing Fraternal Order of Police bass fishing tournament. There's guys out there that's got boats, man, and I mean boats. They're checking they'll go check your live wells and make sure you're not cheating. They come to check me and Greg's live well, and we held up a stringer. We were in a little aluminum boat that had this like 10 horsepower motor on it. And they sounded the siren for us to take off and go across the lake to go get in our fishing holes and to disperse and start fishing. And they hit the siren. I was going, "Go, Greg, go!" And he goes, "I am going." And I mean, we couldn't even hardly do anything. And you know what? We come in second in that tournament. And you know why? Because he hooked a big old lunker bass, got that sucker bill in. And guess what? We didn't look like we had a lot, but I guarantee you, we outfished a lot of people that did have a lot. There's something to be said about results in our walk with God. We can look like we have it all together. We can look like we are something special. But if we don't have results to show that we do have it together, then quit blowing your horn about it. There's something to be said about showing at the end of the day how many you actually did catch. We have groups of people. They walk around, beat their chest, and say, "I'm a Christian," but they make following Christ so confusing. They make following Jesus Christ so confusing. Look at 1 Corinthians 10, 23 and 24. He says, "I have the right to do anything," you say, "but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others." You want to know something? Following Jesus Christ has never been and never will be about ourselves. Let me repeat that one more time. Following Jesus Christ has never been and never will be about ourselves. Look at this. Look. It says, you can do anything. Man, I have the right to do anything. I have the right to say, "You know what, I believe this, and I believe that, and this is what I think, and this is how it ought to be." I can do any of that I want. I can proclaim it from the roof. My favorite one is, "You don't have to go to church to be a Christian." Or, "I'm a good guy." Verses in the Bible just, when people say stuff, does verses in the Bible just go through your head? And like if it could be a wheel, it would just sit there and slap them, go like that. You know, honestly, that's kind of what you're like. When Jesus said, "Nobody's good except my Father in heaven," He's the only one that's good. Don't tell me how good you are. You're worthless. The only thing that makes you any value whatsoever is that Jesus Christ decided to die on the cross for your sins, and you better do something about that. I heard one of the greatest things this week I've ever heard in my life. I got to read it to you. One of the greatest things I've ever heard in my life. I'm not kidding you. Kyle, I don't even know if I can do this. Oh, here it is. Stop. Pastor Bain said, we have to stop trying to transform, to disciple untransformed people. We're missing it. We're fishing, and we're throwing baits, and we're trying to get people to be a part, and we want to love on people. Come in, and I want to teach you about Jesus. I want you to know you're going to have a walk with God. I'm going to cut the top of your head off, kid, and I'm going to pour God in. I'll sew it back on, and you're going to be just fine. And so we start trying to transform, or we start trying to disciple all these people that have never, ever, ever got on their knees and asked Jesus Christ to forgive them of their sins and to be Lord of their lives. We paint pictures of what people should look like as a Christian. And that's not the way it goes. And that's what causes all this craziness. All these people that says, hey, I can do this and be a Christian. I can do that and be a Christian. Do you hear what they're saying? I'm allowed to do this. I can do that. And when did it become about you? When does it become about me? You know what? I don't have any problem doing that, and I don't have any problem doing this. And you know what? I could be naming things right now. I don't need to. What are you doing in your life? What am I doing in my life that's all about me and nothing about the Savior and nothing about the people that He's wanting me to reach? This is fantastic preaching. Maybe the best message I've ever preached. And it's not from me, it's from God. Because I think He is sick and tired of people calling things something that they're not. There's got to be this life change. And the life change isn't that I wake up one morning and go, you know what? I think I'm going to turn over a new leaf. There has got to be a life change. And the life change starts when Jesus Christ gets to have full right-of-way in our lives. And how does that start? That's us humbling ourselves and saying, God, I'm a sinner and I need you to forgive me of my sins. And then it is me turning and walking away from that. And then it is me turning to God and saying, please sanctify me wholly. I don't want to live like the world. I don't want to act like the world. I don't want to do the things that I can do. I want to do stuff that lifts other people up. I want to do things that promotes other people and not me. I want you to be seen, not me. I'm finding that we want to do religion on our terms. But just like fishing, saying you're a Christian is much different than being one. The last time I checked, pure religion doesn't work that way. Pure religion does not work that way. We talked about this in Wednesday night class here a while back. What is pure religion? You want to know what pure religion is? There's a verse in the Bible. Man, there's so much. Here's the thing I love to do about when I preach is I love to back up everything I say by the Word. Then if somebody has a problem with what I said, you know what I do? I just direct them to God. Go fight with Him for a while. He's bigger and He's stronger and he can handle you better than I can. Here's what pure religion is. So what does God call pure religion? James 1:27 says this. Religion. Listen to this. Are you paying attention to this? This verse is chocked plumb full of goodies. And I mean, you need to lasso this and wrap it around your brain because I promise you it's got some stuff in it. Religion that God our Father accepts. Ooh, let's just stop right there for a second. Religion that God our Father accepts. God our Father is the only one that matters about my religion. I don't care what the name on our church says. I promise you, if I'm doing things that God is not happy with and He does not accept, my religion is in vain. Here's the thing. What God accepts as pure religion needs to be the only thing that matters to us. Period. He is not into what the world accepts. He is not into what I think is okay. He is the author of pure religion. So when it says religion that God our Father accepts as pure, we need to wrap our head around that. What does God want from us? What does He want us to do? What is important to Him? How does He want me to walk? How does He want me to talk? How does He want me to act? It does not, I don't care if your mom and dad said it's okay. I don't care if your grandma and grandpa said it's okay. I don't care if the pastor of your church said it's okay. If God the Father said that's not okay, you better readjust your thinking. Because that's the only one that matters. Next, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this. He gives us a roadmap. He says, you want religion? I'll give you some religion. He says this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. God the Father, okay? Let's go back real quick. He is the only one that matters. Now let me read something to you. Matthew 22 and 35 through 38 says this. One of the experts of the law tested him with the question, Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? So that's the very first thing. His is the only thing that matters. My number one command is that God has to be in control. He's the only thing that matters. He's the beginning and the end. There's nothing ever going to change with him. Period. So his religion, his pure religion is from God. And you know what we've got to do? We've got to love him with our heart, soul, mind, and he's got to be number one, and nothing else can compare to him. Period. And then what's the next part of that verse say? It says, to look after orphans and widows in their distress. Look what he says in Matthew, verse 39 of that chapter 22. He says, and the second command is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. You want pure religion? First of all, take what God says is pure and go, okay, that's important to me. And then the second thing we do is we love everybody that needs his love. That is pretty cotton picking simple. You want to know what they're biting on? That. Love God, love others. That's pure religion. And then he throws this in for a little seasoning at the end. He said, in that rest of that verse on James 1:27, he says, and keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Finally, he tells us to keep ourselves. Make him first. Take care of the people around us, our neighbors, and then keep ourselves from being polluted by the world. Awesome. How do you do that? Proverbs 4:23 has a perfect example for that. It says this, above all else. Did you hear that? Above all else. What's above all else? Is there anything above all else? If this is the else, is there anything above that? No. Above all else. There's nothing else. You need to pay attention to this. This is above. If this is the version of the Bible, he says, above all else, guard your heart. Guard your heart. Remember that verse up there? Let me read it again. Keep yourself from being polluted by the world. What's he say? Guard your heart. Guard your heart. Because why? Why do you guard your heart? Because from everything you do flows from it.
Hey Kevin, I hear those rainbow trout. They're biting on those half-ounce willow leaf bladed spinner baits that you use for bass down in Oklahoma. They're tearing them up down there in Roaring River.
Really? How many people? Think about this. I know enough about fishing. If somebody gave me that line of malarkey, I'd say, well, I might be polite. Oh, really? And in the back of my mind, you're a moron, you're a moron, you're a moron. I wouldn't go down there and go, you know what, I'm going to rip out my willow leaf spinner bait and start throwing it at Roaring River. I don't need to do that. But we are getting fed such a line of malarkey about what following Jesus Christ actually looks like. Holy cow. We go on tangents and we think this and we start going, well, I believe and all of this stuff, and we miss the author and finisher of our salvation, his plan for our lives, because we're too busy listening to what everybody else thinks is pure religion. And all he's wanting to do is this. He says, you want pure religion? Make me number one. Take care of the people around you. And guard your heart. Just guard your heart. Don't let other people tell you there's another way to God other than through Jesus Christ. Guard your heart. Don't let other people tell you that you're going to win a lost world by doing all the fandango things that they do. I want you to just follow me, and I have a plan for you on how to win the world. And it's just follow your heart. Follow what God's telling you to do. Pay attention to my roadmap that I laid out for you. Don't listen to what Pastor Kevin said. Follow God. Have him tell you. Say, God, what do you want me to do? How do I make this work? How do I win my friend at school? How do I win this person at work? How do I win them to you, God? Do I go and do a 5-step program on winning people to the world? No, we go get on our knees and we say, God, how do I win my friend to God? Do we think he's not capable of telling us that? What are you fishing with? Are they biting? In your corner of the world, what are you fishing with, and are they biting? Are you reaching out and grabbing people and plucking them out of the way to go to hell, and you're putting them on the right track with God? Are you reaching out and changing lives in your family and in your friends and your community? I love talking to Kyle, man. He tells me all the time about the people that he's reaching out to. What are we doing? Are they biting? Are we throwing a willow leaf at a rainbow trout? I can tell you something that happened when I went to Roaring River. I'd never trout fished before. Bev and I went down there. We had never trout fished. I didn't know diddly squat about trout fishing. The stuff I'm looks like fishing with looks like boat anchors compared to what they're fishing with down there. You know what I did? People that were catching fish, you know what I'd do? I'd go, hey, man, how you doing that? How's that working for you? Are you catching any? I'm not going to go ask the guy that's over there throwing another boat anchor like I would have been and asking him about catching trout. I don't know. I may have asked some goofballs, but I guarantee I asked a bunch of people. And I'm fairly confident that I could take you to Roaring River right now, and I could tell you where to fish and what to fish with and just what to do. I guarantee you, if you had, had a few nerve endings in your hand, you'd catch some fish. I just feel that confident. So why are we not confident about reaching others for Jesus Christ? It's one of two things. One, he's not number one in our life. He's not the top priority. We're still the top priority. That's number one. If we're not reaching people for Christ, that means God's not number one. Or number two, we're going about it the wrong way. We're going about it the wrong way. How important is it to follow? How important is it to do what he asks us to do? And his Great Commission says, go into all the world and preach the gospel. He wants us to make disciples. When's the last time we made a disciple? When's the last time you loved so much, and you cared so much, and you hurt so much for someone that didn't know Jesus Christ, that you did whatever it took? You risk everything. You risk your friendship. You risk looking like a goofball just so they'd know you're Jesus. Or is the life that I'm living so ultra confusing to them because we call ourselves one thing, but we're not catching anything. We're not doing anything. Here's what I want. I want your soul and my soul to be so stirred with the power of Jesus Christ that we will do whatever it takes to win at least someone for him. It's a simple math equation, actually. If I take me and I double me, I have 2. That's a pretty simple math problem, isn't it? Isn't that like one of the first ones we learned? 1 plus 1 is 2. I don't know how many people's in here this morning, but let's just do this simple math problem. Let's take every person in here and just add 1 more. You plus 1 more. If my math serves me correctly, we would have twice as many people that know God today or tomorrow than we did today. Do you realize there would be twice as many people in seats? Do you realize that? Now let's get crazy for a little bit. I want you to follow me. I want you to get, we're going to go crazy, okay? So what if the person that we win, they become a fully devoted follower of Christ, and they see the importance like I do and you do of winning others? So my plus 1, if they went plus 1, and then I did my other plus 1, because do we stop after we win 1? Start doing the math with me. What's that look like? Mark Bain, our district superintendent, said God's interested in this number. He's interested in the number 0. It's not his will that any should perish, but that all come to repentance. Not one. Then Pastor Bain said, do you think he doesn't have a plan for that? Can I tell you something? He doesn't want a single person in McDonald County to go to hell. Not one. Then he said something that kind of hard to swallow. He said, by us not telling someone about Jesus Christ, and they never get the opportunity to have a relationship with him, if we fail to tell someone about God, he said something that blew my mind. He said it's worse than abortion. Wrap your head around that for a second. Because we've lost a person. That person was damned to hell because I didn't do my job. All of a sudden, me making this all about me, my rights to do whatever I want to do, I can call my religion whatever I want to. I can toe the line on whatever I think I need to toe the line on. I can do whatever I want. Everything's permissible. But if I'm not reaching people for the kingdom, I'm not right. If I'm not reaching people for the kingdom, I'm not right. See, this message has some weight to it. But I want you to know this. God's totally ate up and crazy in love with you guys. And He wants to have a relationship with you. That it's not a relationship that's all about you and all about what you think. He wants this relationship with you that literally brings us joy and peace. He wants us to love Him, but then He wants us to love others so much that they have to know about the same God that we love. Don't bring people into church to try to get them saved. Don't invite someone, hey, come to church, get them saved. Man, lead them to God right there where you're at. I went and took a lady home one day. Mess. Oh, wow, mess. This is not me bragging, because I missed so many opportunities. It's ridiculous. So if I'm bragging, I'm a goofball. This is how simple it is. I had this lady come in, need the windshield. She left her car with me. I took her home, and we come back. We put her windshield in, and we took her. I went and got her so she could drive her car back home. In that amount of time, I started talking to her about her family and about her and asking her stuff. And can I tell you something? I don't even remember the girl's name. I honestly don't. I tried to call her, I think, one or two times, and her phone was disconnected. I don't know anything about her. We started talking about God, and she knew she was in a mess, and she had all this junk in her life. And I said, well, why don't you just turn it over to God? And we pulled up at the glass shop, and we're sitting out there in my truck, and we're just sitting there. And I said, you know what? I could pray for you right now. Would you like to get saved? We just had prayer, and guys, I don't know where she's at right now. I have no idea. I don't even remember her name. Do you realize that people are so hungry for God? They're so hopelessly and desperately lost. They want so bad for somebody to tell them a way to find Jesus. They want to know that there's a hope. They want to know that God's for real. They are so desperately lost, and they're dying for us to come and tell them about it. I've got to do better. I've got to do better. Because my Jesus deserves it. Where's your heart this morning? What are you fishing with? Is it working? Look in your live well and see what you got. You don't have to be the most talented, the most awesome. grown in love for Jesus Christ. Allow him to flow through you. Where's your heart? Let's stand. There's a lot of people that have looks on their faces that this hit home. And I'm probably one of them. Is there anyone here that says, hey, Kevin, that's for me? With every head bowed and every eye closed, is there anybody that says, Kevin, man, I haven't won anyone to God in forever. I don't even really talk about God that much. Or you say, man, my experience with God is pretty shallow, man. Is there anybody here that says, you know what, I want that to change? Is there anyone here that says, you know what, I got to have more passion. I got to start wanting people to know Christ more than I want to be popular or cool or thought well of. Is there anybody in here that says, that's me, Kevin? If that's you, I invite you. I invite you to come and pray at this altar. Just step out where you are and come pray. You go, Kevin, I can pray in my seat. Yeah, you can. But what better way to give a testimony, a statement that says, you know what, I'm serious about this. So I get up and I step out and I walk down and I pray. And it doesn't matter what the person next to you is thinking. It doesn't. It's all between you and God. So you say, hey man, Kevin, I need to get after it. I've been slacking. My live well's empty. Is there anybody in here that's saying, you know what? I gotta fix that. Kyle's gonna play some music for a little bit. I'm not gonna hold forever. But if this is you, I'm begging you. Don't turn God down. Don't reject him on this one. Don't reject him. If he's wanting something from you, he deserves it, man. If several people come in, anybody else, man, just step out and say, that's for me, Kevin. To say you're a bad person? No. It says, hey, I need to be put back in the game. I need to get put back in the game.